And now it's time for some pro tips. We're going to talk about metal deck hangers and how to use them correctly, and then let's go repair a fence. This is going to be fun. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about metal hangers, and they are one of the most important parts of a building project. But they're something that are often taken advantage of and not used in the right way. Let's talk about that for a minute. There are different grades of these hangers, and it depends on what you're doing. For instance, this is your typical 2x6 hanger right here. And these look like pretty much the same ones, but there's a big difference between the two. First off, this is a lighter duty one, and this is a heavier duty one. This would be something you'd build a deck with. This maybe hang a ceiling joist that goes across a small room. Let me show you how you find that out. First off, look at how many bolts or screws or nail holes that we have right here. See, this one here has 6, 3 on each side. This one has, well, 2 on the top, and that's it. Now let's talk about what the holes do here, because this really tells a story as well. And that's one of the rules that I want you to follow when you're doing these. When you get the hanger, jump online and take a look at the installation specs. They're going to tell you a story of how they're best used. If I look at this one here, we've got 6 holes in here, which needs fasteners on every single one of those. But if I go over here, I have these diamond shaped ones and then 2 at the top. Now, if you read the direction on this, I'd have to use 2 nails in here that are 3 inches long going in, and these are optional hangers. So these diamond ones are usually either going to be an option just for installing, or if there's a heavy duty version of it. Now, if we go into a different style hanger here, which is for a 2x8 instead of a 2x6, you'll see these right here. These are angles for you to toenail through. So that holds that at an angle, and this goes this way here. So you really need to use these all correctly to actually get the most out of these hangers so they hold together. So let's talk about what nails to use and what screws to use and what are the options. If you're looking at a traditional hanger here, you've got to use one of these basic structural nails here. You don't want to use any kind of regular 16 penny sinker or anything like that. You want a structural nail that's rated for this. Now, you can get away with screws. These fasteners are made with ones like this. They're going to be really durable for you. This is actually going to go in really easily. And I like the screws personally a little bit better because they go in fast. I don't have to sit in there in tight spots. I can get my screw gun in there and they go really well. If you notice, big builders, they'll be putting these nails in, but they've got a special nail gun that'll put them in, and that saves them time. And you're not trying to put a hammer into a small area. So really, when it comes into these, no matter what type of hanger you're using, every one of these holes needs to have a nail or a fastener in it. And so this one here, I've got 4, so I'm gonna have 16 hangers in this whole thing holding this together. That's gonna be what the structure holds, and that means it's gonna be safe. So when you're doing this type of fastener and this type of hanger, make sure that you're doing it correctly, and that project's gonna hold together for you. All right, guys, today's pro tip, we're gonna do a little fence repair. Like many of us, I had some branches come down and karate chop this thing, and I'm gonna show you how to fix it. So the first thing we're gonna do is take a couple broken boards out of here and get it back down to where we can start putting it back together. Now, some of the challenges we have are some bent screws, and so we're gonna get the drill out and see if we can take them out. If not, we're gonna have to take them out by hand. So let's start tearing this thing apart. All right, let's get this wood out of the way. Not gonna be fixing that anytime soon. Let's take a couple of these screws out. I'm gonna take this board out right here. Now these are a little bit more of a challenge right here because I think they're a little bent, so let's see how they come out. All right, guys, if these things are really bent, sometimes it's gonna take some vice grips like this, these lockjaw pliers, and get on these and spin them out. But let's see, I think this one's gonna be okay. I think this actually broke around the board. All right, now that we have these loose, it's time to go to the other side and get those taken out. All right, guys, since we're working with cedar, make sure you use the right exterior rated screws. This is not the place to use the galvanized ones. Let's get some fence boards hung up. So I had a gap, and the cool thing here is that you can see where this was stained, so I already know where that has to be. Now, I would love to sit here and put stain on these, but you know, these are brand new fence boards, which means they need to age a little bit and dry out. So I'm gonna have to wait till springtime for this, so that way the stain will actually soak in and match the rest of these. So that's gonna have to wait. Let's get these fastened up. Get that lined up where I had the gap. See the water get pushed out of there. Now I'm gonna go to the other side, so that way I have this level and sink the rest of the screws. This top one, I'm gonna do the same thing, just get my gap right. Oh, a little split there, but that's okay. All right, fence boards are up. I might think about putting a top rail on this to better protect it with the next storm, but you know something? I can't wait to show you what this is gonna look like in the spring when we put some stain on it. As spring is starting to creep in, if you wanna have the best looking roses in the neighborhood, now is the time to start caring for them. Let me show you some tips that make mine look great all year round. All right, guys, it's that time of year. It's that time to get those roses dialed in for summertime so they look beautiful all year round, and that starts today. Let me show you how. All right, guys, I didn't do a lot of trimming here in the fall, so it really shows it. And so you can kind of see how we've got some dead wood up here and some leaves. We're gonna take all that back. But the first common thing that people ask is, where do you trim them? And so right now, since it's getting towards the end of February, we've got these little pieces coming out here of new growth. And so we wanna trim that so that actually points that new growth out. So I don't wanna take this one back into itself. I either wanna trim here or down here. And since I wanna bring this down a little bit, I'm gonna cut this right here. So that way we can get that new growth going this way. I wanna see if I can make this a little bit bigger versus taller. So let's trim this out right here. Now, one thing is you wanna put a little bit of an angle on it so that way any water doesn't sit on top. So a little bit of a slope makes for a good cut. So I'm gonna come in right here and trim that off. So let's come down here. I'm gonna take all these dead leaves off here as well. Get this stuff out of here. Now you wanna also get rid of all these dead leaves. Don't leave them on the ground because that can cause more disease and stuff. So you wanna just get those out and cleaned up in the recycle bin. And I'm gonna do the same thing around here. Got some dead wood here. I'm gonna cut this out. This one here, got some choices here. I think I'm gonna come back to here because I've got some growth going off the other way. Now this is a big one here. I think I'm gonna cut that way back because I really wanna see if I can get some growth going out this way and drop this height down, because the problem is when you get the big roses on there, if they've got those tiny stems, they like to kind of lean over and break. And if you're not gonna get a flower out of it, what's the point, right? And the same thing here. I'm gonna cut this off right here. So that way this starts going off this direction. Good time to clean this off here as well. Get that cleaned up. That's actually alive. That's dead, so we'll clean this off here. Everything else looks pretty good. Now, when we start seeing this growth right here, now's the time I like to get the fertilizer out. And this also will prevent a lot of diseases and the bugs, so it's kind of that systemic all-in-one. So it's a good time to start hitting it now. As long as we don't have any big freezes coming up, it's gonna be good. And that's the secret to having some really great roses all year round.